The Force binds all things across the galaxy, connecting every living being in an invisible web of energy and destiny. For millennia, Jedi and Sith alike have sought to understand its mysteries, to harness its power, to bend reality itself through its will. But what happens when something from beyond the stars arrives, something that knows nothing of the Force, yet seeks power that could rival it? What happens when a being who has already condemned trillions to death in his own universe decides that this galaxy, too, requires his particular vision of balance? The first sign came as a distortion in hyperspace near Mustafar. Imperial sensor stations detected an anomaly, not a ship dropping from light speed, but something tearing through the fabric of space itself. The readings made no sense. Energy signatures that didn't match any known propulsion system. A mass that registered somewhere between a star destroyer and a small moon. Then, as quickly as the readings spiked, they vanished, leaving only the echo of something impossible burned into the sensor logs. On the volcanic world below, in his fortress of black stone and anger, Darth Vader felt it through the Force. A presence, vast, cold, utterly alien to everything he had ever sensed. Not dark side, not light, something that existed outside the binary he had known his entire life. His mechanical breathing echoed in the meditation chamber as he reached out, trying to understand what had just arrived in his galaxy. The Force recoiled from it, as if unwilling to touch this new thing. That alone told Vader everything he needed to know about the magnitude of the threat. 12,000 kilometers above Mustafar's atmosphere, Sanctuary 2 stabilized. The massive warship, shaped like a brutal crescent of dark metal and weapons systems, hung in the void, its engines cooling from the violent dimensional transition. On the command throne, Thanos opened his eyes. The journey had been unexpected. He had been tracking the space stone's signature through a collapsing wormhole when reality itself seemed to fold, depositing him and his ship somewhere utterly unfamiliar. The Mad Titan rose to his full height, his purple skin catching the orange glow of Mustafar's reflection off the viewport. His golden armor, scarred from countless battles, creaked as he moved. Around him, his children, the Black Order, awaited orders with the patience of zealots. Ebony Maw's thin fingers twitched with anticipation. Proxima Midnight gripped her spear. Corvus Glaive's blade hummed with dark energy. Cull Obsidian simply stood, a mountain of barely contained violence. Lord Thanos, Ebony Maw's voice dripped with obeisance. The star charts are unfamiliar. This is not the Andromeda sector. This is not even our universe. Thanos said nothing for a long moment. He had suspected as much. The wormhole's collapse had felt wrong. Reality bending in ways even the Infinity Stones couldn't explain. But where others might feel fear or confusion, Thanos felt only purpose. Wherever he was, whatever strange new galaxy this might be, his mission remained unchanged. Balance. The universe, any universe, required balance. Scan for energy signatures, Thanos commanded, his deep voice filling the bridge. The Infinity Stones resonate at specific frequencies. If there are artifacts of similar power in this reality, we will find them, and we will use them to complete our work. The ship's systems came alive, exotic sensors probing the surrounding space. Within minutes, the results appeared on holographic displays. Thanos studied them with the careful attention of a scholar, not a conqueror. He saw a galaxy teeming with life, trillions upon trillions, of beings spread across thousands of systems. The thought should have brought him satisfaction. So much life meant so much suffering. So many resources stretched beyond sustainability. This galaxy needed him, whether it knew it or not. But something else caught his attention. Energy readings that pulsed through the very fabric of space. Not the discrete, focused power of the Infinity Stones, but something more organic, more pervasive. It touched everything, connected everything. The readings showed concentrations of this energy in certain locations, temples, ruins, worlds that seemed to hold special significance. And there were artifacts. 6, his sensors indicated. 6 sources of power that resonated with echoes of the stones he sought. A thin smile crossed Thanos' features. Perhaps the universe, whatever universe this was, had brought him here for a reason. Perhaps destiny operated across dimensional boundaries. He would find these artifacts. He would claim their power, and then he would do what he had always done: bring balance through the only method that had ever worked. The method weak-willed beings called genocide, but which he knew as mercy. Set course for the nearest concentration, Thanos ordered, and prepare the ground forces. We go to collect what is ours. On Coruscant, in the depths of the Imperial Palace, Emperor Palpatine's yellow eyes snapped open. The dark side screamed a warning, something it had never done before in all his long years of manipulation and conquest. He reached out through the Force, his consciousness spreading across star systems, and felt it. A void, a presence that shouldn't exist, something that moved through his carefully ordered galaxy with the inevitability of a collapsing star. Interesting, the Emperor whispered to the empty throne room. His gnarled fingers tapped against the armrest. Most interesting indeed. He pressed a control, and a hologram flickered to life. Commander, dispatch the Inquisitors to investigate the disturbance near Mustafar, and inform Lord Vader that his presence may be required. We have a visitor, and I suspect he will not be diplomatic. Far from the Empire's reach, on a hidden moon in the Outer Rim, a Jedi survivor named Kanan Jarrus jerked awake from meditation. He had seen something in the Force, a vision of purple death, of worlds dying not in fire, but in cold, calculated culling. Half of everything, simply ceasing to exist. The vision made no sense, violated everything he understood about the Force and the nature of conflict. But the terror it inspired was undeniably real. He reached for his lightsaber, the ancient weapon suddenly feeling inadequate against what was coming. Whatever that thing was, it had just arrived in their galaxy. And somehow, Kanan knew with absolute certainty that the Empire would seem like a minor threat compared to what the mad Titan would bring. Thanos stood at the viewport of Sanctuary 2, watching as his ship began its journey toward the first temple marked on his charts. The volcanic world below held no interest for him now. But somewhere out there, in this vast and unfamiliar galaxy, 6 artifacts waited. 6 keys to the power he needed to complete his sacred work. The beings of this galaxy would resist, of course. They always did. They would call him monster, tyrant, madman. They would fight with everything they had, marshal their armies and their weapons and their hope. And it would make no difference, because Thanos was inevitable. In every universe, in every reality, balance demanded sacrifice. And he was the only one strong enough to do what must be done. Prepare for war, he said quietly. This galaxy is about to learn the price of survival. If you want to see more characters enter the Star Wars galaxy, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character you'd want to see in the comments below. May the Force be with you. Jeddah, the ancient moon, had once been a beacon of faith, a place where pilgrims from across the galaxy came to meditate on the Force and seek Kyber crystals in the holy temples. The Empire had stripped it nearly bare, mining the crystals for their Death Star project, leaving behind ruins and a population that clung to memories of better days. What remained were crumbling statues of forgotten Jedi, half-buried temples, and the stubborn faithful who refused to abandon their sacred ground. Thanos' landing craft descended through Jeddah's thin atmosphere like a dagger of dark metal. No Imperial patrols challenged them. The moon was considered pacified, barely worth garrisoning now that the valuable crystals had been extracted. That suited Thanos perfectly. He preferred to work without interruption, at least in these early stages. Once he understood this galaxy's power structure, then he would deal with whatever governments or empires thought they ruled here. The craft settled in the ruins of the Temple of the Kyber, sending up clouds of ancient dust. The boarding ramp descended, and Thanos emerged into the pale sunlight. Behind him, the Black Order fanned out with practiced efficiency. Ebony Maw floated rather than walked, his robes billowing in the thin wind. Proxima Midnight's three-pronged spear gleamed as she surveyed their surroundings. With predatory interest, Corvus Glaive moved like a shadow, his weapon already drawn. Cull Obsidian simply cracked his massive knuckles, eager for violence. The locals scattered at their approach. Thanos paid them no mind. They were irrelevant to his purpose, though he noted their terror with the detached interest of a scientist observing test subjects. Fear was universal, it seemed, transcending dimensional boundaries. Good. Fear was honest. Fear was rational when facing the inevitable. He approached the temple entrance. studying the architecture with genuine appreciation. The beings who had built this place understood scale, understood the relationship between the physical and the metaphysical. The statues depicted robed figures holding weapons of light, primitive perhaps, but elegant in their simplicity. He could sense the residual energy here. That same pervasive field his sensors had detected. It clung to the stones, whispered through the empty halls. Power. Ancient power. Not an infinity stone, but something that could perhaps serve a similar purpose. My lord. Ebony Maw drifted to his side, gesturing toward the temple depths. I sensed something below. A presence. Not life, precisely, but awareness. Thanos nodded. A holocron. This galaxy's method of storing knowledge and power. He had studied the initial scans carefully. During the journey, these holocrons were technological artifacts infused with this force energy, capable of preserving the wisdom of their creators across millennia. 6 legendary holocrons existed, scattered across the galaxy. 6 artifacts that, according to the fragmentary data his systems had intercepted, were said to contain the secrets of life and death, time and space, reality and illusion. Not infinity stones, but perhaps close enough. They descended into the temple, following passages that wound deep into Jedha's crust. The walls were covered in faded murals, depicting the eternal struggle between light and darkness, order and chaos. Thanos studied them as he walked, recognizing the universal nature of such conflicts. Every civilization believed their struggles were unique, their philosophies profound. None understood that all roads led to the same destination: overpopulation, resource depletion, suffering, and eventual extinction. Only through culling could the cycle be broken. The chamber at the heart of the temple opened before them. Vast and circular, its ceiling lost in shadow. At the center, on a pedestal of carved stone, sat a pyramid-shaped device that pulsed with a faint red glow. A Sith holocron. Thanos approached it slowly, reverently. Even from several meters away, he could feel the power radiating from it. Dark power. Corrupting power. The kind that promised everything while demanding everything in return. He reached out with one massive hand. The holocron activated instantly, its surfaces shifting and rotating with mechanical precision. A figure materialized above it, a hologram of a hooded being whose face was hidden in shadow, but whose presence radiated malevolence that filled the chamber like poison gas. Who dares disturb the teachings of Darth Bane? The voice was ancient, layered with dark side energy that would have driven most beings to their knees. Thanos remained standing, unmoved. I am Thanos of Titan, and I have come to claim what I need. The holocron's guardian, an echo of the long-dead Sith Lord, seemed to study him. You are? Not of this galaxy. I sense no midi-chlorians in you. No connection to the Force. Yet you stand before a Sith holocron without fear. Interesting. What makes you believe? You can simply take what took me lifetimes to learn. Because I have already done far worse than anything your Sith ever imagined. Thanos replied calmly. I have watched worlds die by my command. I have culled populations across dozens of systems. I have made the hard choices that weak beings call evil, but which are simply necessary. Your holocron contains knowledge of the dark side, of manipulating this force to achieve power over life and death. I will use it, or I will destroy it. The choice is irrelevant to my purpose. For a long moment, the holocron's guardian was silent. Then, impossibly, it laughed. A dry, rattling sound that echoed off the temple walls. You speak of balance through death, of culling to preserve. Such philosophy. The Sith would have welcomed you, Titan, or they would have tried to kill you. Perhaps both. I welcome neither allies nor enemies, Thanos said. Only results. He closed his hand around the holocron. The artifact resisted, dark side energy lashing out like vipers, trying to corrupt his mind, to show him visions of power and domination. But Thanos's will was forged in the death of his homeworld, tempered by the genocide of 1,000 others. He had stared into the void of extinction and chosen to become its instrument. No ancient Sith ghost could break what was already broken by choice. The holocron's resistance collapsed. The gatekeeper's hologram flickered. You are strong. Stronger than any I have encountered. Very well, Titan. The knowledge of Darth Bane is yours. Use it as you will. But know this. The dark side is not a tool to be wielded. It is a path that consumes, all who walk it. I have no intention of walking any path but my own, Thanos said, securing the holocron in a compartment on his armor. One artifact claimed. 5 remain. Ebony Maw bowed. Master, the ship's sensors have already located the next concentration. A world called Korriban. Another temple. Another holocron. Thanos turned toward the exit. Then we continue. This galaxy has 6 gifts to offer, and I will collect them all. They ascended from the temple depths, emerging into Jedda's perpetual twilight. But they were no longer alone. Stormtroopers had formed a perimeter. Around their ship, dozens of white-armored soldiers with blasters raised. At their center stood a figure in crimson armor, a double-bladed lightsaber spinning in his hands. An Inquisitor, one of the Emperor's dark side assassins, trained to hunt the last remnants of the Jedi Order. The 8th brother stepped forward, his respirator hissing. By order of the Emperor, you are to surrender the artifact and submit to Imperial custody. Resist, and you will be terminated. Thanos stopped walking. He studied the Imperial forces with the same dispassionate gaze he had given the holocron. Soldiers, disciplined, armed, numerically superior. In another context, they might have posed a threat. Here, they were simply an obstacle. I have no interest in your Emperor, Thanos said. Stand aside. The 8th brother ignited both blades of his lightsaber. The crimson plasma cast dancing shadows across the ruins. I sense no force in you, creature. You are powerful, but you are no match for the dark side. The dark side, Thanos repeated, almost thoughtfully. He began walking forward again, his pace unhurried. I have just claimed the knowledge of your ancient Sith. I understand what your dark side is. Anger, passion, the raw emotion of beings who mistake. Feeling for strength. You believe it gives you power. The stormtroopers opened fire. Dozens of blaster bolts converged on Thanos from all directions. A concentrated storm of red energy that would have vaporized any normal being. The Mad Titan didn't even break stride. The bolts struck his armor, his skin, and dissipated like rain against stone. His Titan physiology was designed to withstand the cosmic forces of space itself. These primitive energy weapons were nothing. You believe pain makes you strong, Thanos continued. Now only meters from the Inquisitor. You believe suffering grants wisdom. You are children playing with fire, thinking yourselves gods because you can make it burn. The 8th brother lunged, his lightsaber cutting through the air in a perfect, killing arc aimed at Thanos' neck. The blade, capable of cutting through durasteel, through blast doors, through nearly anything in the known galaxy, struck Thanos' raised forearm and stopped. The purple skin didn't burn, didn't sear. The plasma blade pressed against Thanos' flesh and simply failed. The Inquisitor's eyes widened behind his mask. Impossible. Nothing. Resisted a lightsaber. Nothing. Thanos' other hand closed around the Inquisitor's throat, lifting him off the ground as easily as a child lifting a toy. I was born on a dying world. I watched my people tear each other apart over dwindling resources. I proposed a solution, random, dispassionate, fair. They called me mad. They exiled me. And then they died. Every single one of them. Because they lacked the will to do what was necessary. The 8th brother's lightsaber fell from nerveless fingers. He clawed at Thanos' grip, but it was like trying to move a mountain. I have killed trillions, Thanos said quietly. Not in anger. Not in passion. Because it was required. Your dark side is nothing but indulgent emotion dressed as philosophy. I am beyond such weakness. He squeezed. There was a wet crack. The Inquisitor went limp. Thanos dropped the body and turned to face the stormtroopers. They had stopped firing, finally understanding that their weapons were useless. Some were already backing away. Good. Intelligence was a survival trait. Return to your Emperor, Thanos commanded. Tell him that Thanos of Titan walks his galaxy now. Tell him that I seek 6 artifacts, and nothing will prevent me from claiming them. If he is wise, he will not interfere. He strode past the frozen soldiers toward his ship. The Black Order followed, Proxima. Midnight pausing only to retrieve the fallen. Inquisitor's lightsaber as a trophy. Within minutes, the landing craft lifted off, rising through Jedda's atmosphere to rejoin Sanctuary 2 in orbit. As they ascended, Thanos gazed out at the stars. One holocron claimed, the Sith Gatekeeper's knowledge, already being analyzed and cataloged by his ship's systems. 5 artifacts remained. And now this galaxy's dominant power, this empire, knew he was here. Good. Let them know. Let them prepare their fleets and their armies and their force wielders. It would make no difference. The stones had taught him patience, purpose, the understanding that true power lay not in passion or anger, but in absolute, unwavering will. This galaxy would learn that lesson soon enough. The Imperial Palace on Coruscant reached toward the sky like a monument to absolute power, its dark spires casting shadows across kilometers of cityscape. In the throne room's depths, Emperor Palpatine stood before a holographic display, showing the carnage on Jeddah, the Eighth Brother's broken body, stormtroopers fleeing, and the purple giant walking away as though he had done nothing more significant than swat an insect. Fascinating, Palpatine murmured, his wizened face illuminated by the blue glow. His fingers traced the air, manipulating the hologram to zoom in on Thanos' features. A being immune to lightsabers, impervious to blaster fire, and utterly untouched by the Force. Moff Tarkin, your assessment. The gaunt Imperial officer stood at attention beside the throne. A significant threat, Your Majesty. Our intelligence indicates his ship possesses technology beyond anything in Imperial records. He's already recovered one Sith artifact from Jeddah and appears to be systematically targeting others. If he acquires them all, he will have collected historical curiosities, Palpatine interrupted, though his tone carried an edge of uncertainty that Tarkin had never heard before. These holocrons contain knowledge, not power. Not in the way this Thanos seems to believe. Unless the Emperor's eyes narrowed. Unless he knows something about their true potential that even I do not. A disturbance in the Force made Palpatine turn. The chamber's entrance dilated, and Darth Vader strode through, his cape billowing behind him, his breathing the only sound in the suddenly tense space. The Dark Lord of the Sith knelt before his master. But Palpatine could sense the turbulence beneath that mechanical calm. Lord Vader, you felt it as well. Yes, my master. Vader's vocabulator made his voice a mechanical rasp. This being, it exists outside the Force entirely. It is as if the universe itself has rejected him, made him separate from the natural order. I have never encountered anything like it, which makes him either irrelevant, Palpatine said slowly, or the most dangerous threat the Empire has yet faced. Rise, my apprentice. You will pursue this Thanos. Assess his capabilities, his weaknesses, his purpose. If he can be turned to serve the Empire, do so. If not, he will be destroyed. Vader's words carried absolute conviction. Do not underestimate him, Palpatine warned. The Eighth Brother was no apprentice. Yet this creature killed him with his bare hands. And the holocrons he seeks. If there is a chance they could be used against us, we must know. Take the Inquisitors. Take the 501st. And Vader, be cautious. It was the closest thing to concern Palpatine had ever expressed. For his apprentice's safety, Vader bowed and departed, already calculating the logistics of hunting a being that could not be sensed through the Force. On Korriban, the ancient Sith homeworld, dust storms raged across valleys filled with tombs and temples. The planet was a wound in the Force, saturated with centuries of dark side, rituals, and the lingering malevolence of countless dead Sith lords. The very air tasted of decay and power. It was the perfect hiding place for the second holocron on Thanos' list. Sanctuary 2 hung in orbit, its sensors mapping the tomb complexes below. Thanos stood on the bridge, studying the data with scholarly attention. This world was different. From Jeddah, where the moon had been stripped and abandoned, Korriban remained actively dangerous. His scanners detected life signs, creatures twisted by dark energy, predators that shouldn't exist by any natural evolutionary path. And something else. Multiple Force signatures converging on the planet from across the system. The Empire was responding faster than he had anticipated. Ebony Maw, take Corvus, Glaive, and retrieve the holocron from the Valley of the Dark Lords. I will deal with whatever forces this Empire sends. Thanos turned from the display. Proxima, Cull, prepare for combat. We are about to meet the true power behind this galaxy's dominant faction. The team deployed efficiently. Maw and Glaive descended to Korriban's surface while Thanos remained aboard Sanctuary 2, watching as 3-star destroyers dropped from hyperspace. The massive wedge-shaped vessels dwarfed his ship in size, their turbo-laser batteries already tracking his position. Impressive engineering, Thanos noted. Crude compared to the technology of his universe, but effective for projecting power across vast distances. A communications signal penetrated his ship's systems. Thanos allowed it. A hologram flickered to life, a human officer in a crisp gray uniform, his expression rigid with Imperial authority. Unidentified vessel. This is Captain Nevik of the Imperial Star Destroyer Devastator. You have violated Imperial space and committed murder against the Emperor's servants. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded, or you will be fired upon. Thanos studied the officer for a moment. I am Thanos. I have come to this galaxy seeking specific artifacts necessary to complete my work. Your empire is irrelevant to my purpose. I recommend you withdraw. Captain Nevik's face reddened. You dare? I dare everything, Thanos interrupted. I have reduced civilizations to ash. I have watched sons die by my command. Your threats are meaningless, but I am not without mercy. Leave now, and I will allow you to survive. Persist, and you will learn why entire sectors of my universe learned to fear my name. The hologram cut out. Thanos waited. 10 seconds. 20. Then the Star Destroyers opened fire. Turbo lasers erupted in emerald fury. Dozens of beams converging on Sanctuary 2 from 3 directions simultaneously. The coordinated barrage would have vaporized most ships. Thanos' vessel shuddered under the impact, shields flaring as they absorbed terawatts of energy. Warning systems shrieked. Hull integrity dropped to 70%, then 60%. Return fire, Thanos commanded calmly. Target their weapons systems. I want one ship intact for study. Sanctuary 2's weapons were designed to fight beings who wielded cosmic power as casually as breathing. The particle beams that lanced outmade the Empire's. Turbo lasers looked like children's toys. The first beam struck the Devastator's starboard side, punching through the shields, as if they didn't exist, and carving a molten trench through 30 decks. Secondary explosions blossomed along the wound. The second beam struck another Star Destroyer's engine section, and the massive ship began listing, trailing atmosphere and debris. But the third Star Destroyer held position, and Thanos realized with grudging respect that these Imperial forces were disciplined. They continued firing even as 2 of their vessels burned. Loyalty, dedication, useful traits, if properly directed, wasted on maintaining an empire built on fear rather than purpose. Enough. Thanos stood. I will board them personally. Prepare the assault craft. Within minutes, he was crossing the void between ships, his armor protecting him from vacuum and radiation. The assault craft latched onto the Devastator's hull, breaching charges blowing through the armored plating. Thanos entered the Star Destroyer alone, walking through corridors filled with emergency lighting and klaxon warnings. Stormtroopers appeared at every intersection. They had learned from Jeddah. These fired heavy weapons, E-webs and thermal detonators. Concentrated fire meant to bring down vehicles. The corridor became a hurricane of energy and explosive force. Thanos walked through it. A thermal detonator exploded at his feet, the blast enough to tear apart a squad. He emerged from the smoke unscathed. His hand shot out, faster than the stormtroopers could track, and he tore a bulkhead support from the wall. The metal beam became a club in his hands. He swung once, and 3 troopers went flying, their armor crumpling like paper. Another swing cleared the corridor. He didn't enjoy the violence. It was simply necessary. These soldiers stood between him and his objective. Therefore, they would fall. He found the bridge 6 minutes later. The blast doors were sealed, reinforced durasteel that could withstand turbo-laser strikes. Thanos examined them for precisely 2 seconds, then drove his fist through the metal. The door buckled, then tore free from its housing. He stepped through into the bridge. Captain Nevik stood at the center, a blaster pistol trembling in his hand. Around him, bridge officers had abandoned their stations, some holding weapons, others simply frozen in terror. Thanos understood. They had seen him walk through their defenses as if they were nothing. Every weapon they trusted had failed. You're a monster, Nevik whispered. No, Thanos replied. I am a realist. This is the difference between us, Captain. You serve an empire built on domination, on subjugation, on imposing order through fear. You believe yourself strong. But true strength requires sacrifice. It requires the will to make choices no one else can bear. He advanced. Nevik fired. The blaster bolt struck Thanos' chest and dissipated. Your empire seeks to control this galaxy through military might. Admirable in its scope, but ultimately futile. Control is temporary. Balance is eternal. And balance requires culling. You're talking about genocide. One of the bridge officers said, his voice cracking. I am talking about survival. Thanos stopped before Nevik. Tell me, Captain, does your empire monitor population growth, resource consumption, the sustainability of your civilization? Or do you simply expand, consume, reproduce without limit, believing the galaxy's bounty is infinite? Nevik said nothing. Thanos nodded, as if this confirmed everything. I thought not. Then you are already dead. All of you. This galaxy. It will follow the same path as countless others. Expansion beyond sustainability. War over dwindling resources. Eventual collapse into extinction. Unless someone has the courage to act. And you're that someone? Nevik spat. You're going to save us by killing us. Half, Thanos corrected. Random. Dispassionate. Fair. The survivors will know prosperity like they have never imagined. Resources abundant. Space to breathe. A future worth living. This is mercy, Captain, even if you cannot see it. He reached out and took Nevik's blaster, crushing it to scrap in his hand. But first, I must complete my collection. Where I come from, I sought 6 infinity stones, artifacts of cosmic power. This galaxy has offered me 6 holocrons instead. Different tools, but the principle remains. With them, I will have the knowledge and power to achieve what must be done. The Emperor will stop you, Nevik said with desperate defiance. Lord Vader will hunt you across every system. You can't. I am inevitable, Thanos interrupted. Tell your Emperor this. Tell him that Thanos offers one chance, surrender the remaining holocrons willingly, and I will consider sparing your empire when the culling begins. Refuse, and your empire will be judged along with the rest of this galaxy. He turned and walked from the bridge, leaving the crew alive. They would deliver his message. And more importantly, they would spread fear. Fear was a tool like any other. And while Thanos did not rely on it as the Empire did, he understood its utility. A galaxy that feared him would resist less when the time came. By the time he returned to Sanctuary 2, Ebony Maw and Corvus Glaive had retrieved the second holocron, a Sith artifact that had belonged to Darth Revan, containing knowledge of both light and dark, of redemption and damnation. 2 artifacts now, for remained. But as Thanos studied the star charts, plotting his course to the next temple, his sensors detected something else. A ship dropping from hyperspace. Not a star destroyer. Something smaller, faster. And aboard it, a presence that even his non-force sensitive awareness could detect. Power. True power. Not the fumbling darkness of the Inquisitor, but something refined, honed, absolute. So, Thanos murmured. They send their champion. Good. Let us see if this Lord Vader is more impressive than his servants. Vader's flagship, the Executor-class Star Dreadnought still under construction, was not yet ready. Instead, he commanded a fleet of 6 Star Destroyers and his personal shuttle, the sleek black craft cutting through hyperspace toward Corbin like a dagger aimed at the heart of ancient Sith history. Around him in the meditation chamber, the dark side churned with anticipation. This Thanos represented something unprecedented, a threat that existed beyond the Force's reach, beyond even the Emperor's prescience. In the Force, Vader could see echoes of futures branching like lightning. In some, the galaxy burned. In others, silence. An absence where trillions of lives simply ceased. He had witnessed Palpatine's visions of dominion, had touched the dark side's promises of ultimate power. But this was different. This was extermination without malice, genocide as philosophy rather than conquest. It fascinated and repulsed him in equal measure. The fleet dropped from hyperspace above Lothal, not Corbin. Intelligence indicated Thanos had already departed the ancient Sith world with his second artifact, and Imperial tracking had projected his next target, the Lothal Jedi Temple, hidden beneath the planet's northern wastes. A temple that housed a holocron of uncertain origin, one that predated even the Old Republic. Vader had known of its existence but considered it unimportant, the knowledge of extinct Jedi held no value to the Empire's future. But if Thanos sought it, then it mattered. Lord Vader. The fleet commander's voice crackled through the comlink. Long-range sensors detect the hostile vessel in low orbit over Lothal. They've deployed ground forces to the temple coordinates. Orders. Establish orbital blockade, Vader commanded. Nothing enters or leaves this system. Prepare my shuttle and a battalion of the 501st I will engage this Thanos personally. As his shuttle descended through Lothal's atmosphere, Vader reached out through the Force, trying once more to sense the being he was about to confront. Nothing. Not. Emptiness. Emptiness implied an absence. Within the Force, this was something outside it entirely, like trying to see a color that didn't exist on any spectrum. It was profoundly wrong, an affront to the natural order of the universe. The shuttle touched down 2 kilometers from the temple entrance. Vader emerged into Lothal's twilight, his cape snapping in the wind. Behind him, white-armored stormtroopers of the 501st deployed with military precision, establishing a perimeter. But Vader raised a hand, halting them. Remain here. This is not a battle for soldiers. He walked alone across the rocky terrain, his lightsaber unignited but ready. The temple rose before him, ancient stones covered in glyphs that predated the Galactic Republic, depicting the eternal struggle between light and darkness, knowledge and ignorance. The entrance yawned open, already breached. Thanos was inside. Vader descended into the depths. The temple's architecture was deliberately disorienting, meant to test those seeking its secrets. Passages that looped back on themselves. Chambers that seemed to defy spatial logic. But Vader had long ago mastered such tricks. He followed the disturbance, not in the Force, but in its absence. A void moving through the temple like a shark through water. The central chamber opened before him, vast and circular, its walls covered in holocrons of every age and origin. Jedi holocrons glowing with soft blue light. Sith artifacts pulsing red. And at the center, on a pedestal suspended by ancient repulsor technology, a holocron unlike any other. Crystalline, shifting between colors. Neither light nor dark, but something in between, or perhaps beyond both. Thanos stood before it, his massive frame dwarfing the pedestal. He had not yet taken the artifact. Instead, he studied it with the patience of a scholar. One hand raised, but not touching. He spoke without turning. You are different from the others. Stronger. More. Complete in your darkness. You do not simply use this force. You are shaped by it. Consumed by it. Interesting. Vader's lightsaber ignited, the crimson blade casting blood-red light across the chamber. I am Darth Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith. You have violated Imperial space, stolen sacred artifacts, and murdered Imperial servants. Surrender, and the Emperor may grant you a swift death. Now Thanos turned. His eyes, intelligent, calculating, utterly devoid of fear, met Vader's mechanical gaze. Sacred? These holocrons are tools, nothing more. Repositories of knowledge accumulated by beings who believed themselves masters of cosmic power. They understood so little. As do you. You presume much for one who cannot touch the Force. The Force. Thanos spoke the word as if tasting something bitter. That energy field your entire civilization revolves around. Yes, I have studied it since. Arriving in your galaxy. Fascinating. A binding energy that connects all living things, that can be manipulated to achieve extraordinary effects. Your Jedi used it to maintain peace. Your Sith use it to dominate. But both missed the fundamental truth. He began walking forward, each step deliberate, unhurried. The Force is a crutch, a dependence that makes you blind to reality. You sense intentions through it, see possible futures, move objects with thought. All impressive, all ultimately meaningless when confronting a being who exists outside its reach. Vader attacked. His lightsaber became a blur of crimson death. Form V strikes meant to overwhelm through raw power and aggression. Each blow carried the strength of the dark side, augmented by cybernetic servos and decades of combat mastery. The blade that could cut through blast doors, that had slain Jedi masters and carved through battalions, struck Thanos' raised forearm and stopped. The purple skin didn't sear. The plasma blade pressed against Thanos' flesh and achieved nothing. Vader felt something he had not experienced since. Mustafar's lava flows consumed his body, disbelief. His lightsaber, an extension of his will through the Force, had encountered something it could not harm. Thanos' other hand shot out, faster than even Vader's force-enhanced reflexes could track, and closed around the Dark Lord's throat. He lifted Vader off the ground as easily as lifting a child. The mechanical breathing that had been Vader's constant companion for decades struggled as the grip tightened. "You are powerful," Thanos acknowledged. "I can feel the pain that drives you, the loss, the rage. You were burned, broken, remade into this." He gestured at Vader's armor. "You believe your suffering made you strong. Perhaps it did. But strength without purpose is just violence. And violence without vision is chaos." Vader's hand extended, and the force erupted from him in a telekinetic blast that had once collapsed entire structures. Thanos shifted backward half a step. Just half a step. The force, which Vader commanded with the power of a collapsing star, moved the Mad Titan less than a meter. "Impressive," Thanos said. "That field of yours does have considerable kinetic potential. But it requires conscious will, yes? Concentration? What happens when that concentration is broken?" He slammed Vader into the ground with enough force to crack the ancient stone, then lifted him and threw him across the chamber. Vader crashed into a wall, his armor systems shrieking damage warnings. He rolled to his feet immediately, but Thanos was already there, moving with speed that seemed impossible for something so massive. A fist struck Vader's chest plate. The reinforced armor, designed to withstand blaster fire and lightsaber strikes, buckled. Vader felt ribs crack, felt his cybernetic system stutter. He retaliated with a force choke, pouring all his power into crushing Thanos' windpipe. The Mad Titan paused, actually feeling the effect for the first time. His breath came slightly harder. "Better," Thanos said, his voice strained but not desperate. "You can affect me, even if only marginally. The Force can influence me through air pressure, through kinetic manipulation. Not directly, but indirectly." Clever. He took a step forward against the invisible pressure. Then another. But not enough. He broke through Vader's force choke like walking through a strong wind. His hand closed around Vader's lightsaber arm, and he twisted. Metal screamed. Servos sparked. Vader's mechanical limb tore free at the elbow, the lightsaber still clutched in the severed hand, its blade extinguishing as it hit the ground. Vader screamed. Not in pain. His pain was constant, had been for decades. He screamed in rage. The dark side exploded from him in a wave of pure hatred, and every holocron in the chamber shattered simultaneously. Shards of ancient technology became projectiles, a storm of razor edges propelled by the dark side's fury. They struck Thanos from every angle, moving with enough force to penetrate starship hulls. The Mad Titan's armor sparked where the shards hit. His skin split in shallow cuts across his arms and face. For the first time since arriving in this galaxy, Thanos bled. He touched a finger to the wound on his cheek, studying the purple blood with academic interest. "You can hurt me," Thanos observed. "Given enough power, enough rage, you can cause me actual harm. Well done, Lord Vader. You are the first in this galaxy to do so." He reached down and picked up Vader's severed arm, examining the cybernetics with genuine curiosity. "How much of you is still organic? 20%? Less. You are more machine than man, held together by technology and hatred. A weapon your emperor forged from whatever broken thing you once were. Do you even remember who you were before this?" Vader lunged with his remaining arm, summoning his lightsaber back to his left hand through the force. The blade ignited mid-flight, and he caught it in a reverse grip, slashing at Thanos' exposed throat. The Mad Titan caught his wrist, stopping the blow centimeters from his jugular. "Anakin Skywalker," Thanos said quietly, and Vader froze. The intelligence I gathered mentioned that name. The fallen Jedi. The prophesied. Chosen one who would bring balance to the Force. Instead, you brought destruction. You killed younglings. Betrayed everything you once stood for. All because you feared loss. You know nothing. I know everything." Thanos interrupted. "I lost my homeworld. To the exact fear you embody, the inability to make hard choices. Titan died because my people lacked the will to do what was necessary. I proposed a solution. Random culling. Fair. Dispassionate. They called me mad. They exiled me. And then they all died, slowly, agonizingly, as resources dwindled and society collapsed. Every single one of them. Because they chose sentiment over survival." He released Vader's wrist but held his gaze. You and I are not so different, Anakin Skywalker. We both lost everything. We both became monsters in pursuit of what we believed was necessary. The difference is that I succeeded. I perfected my method, and I do not hide behind masks or masters or empires. I own what I am. Vader stumbled backward, his connection to the Force wavering under the weight of those words. The dark side whispered its usual promises: power, domination, revenge, but they felt hollow against Thanos' absolute certainty. Join me, Thanos said. You serve an emperor who uses you as a weapon while keeping you weak, broken, dependent on him. I offer you purpose beyond serving another's ambition. Help me gather the remaining holocrons. Help me achieve true balance in this galaxy. And when the culling comes, you will stand among those who survive to see the new dawn. For a moment, just a moment, Vader considered it. The Emperor had manipulated him, twisted him, kept him in constant agony to fuel his dark side power. Thanos offered something different. Not redemption, but honest purpose. Partnership built on shared philosophy rather than master and slave. Then he thought of Luke, the son he had learned existed only recently. The last piece of Padme still alive in the galaxy. The possibility of redemption, however distant. No, Vader said, his voice mechanical but final. I serve the Empire, and you will fall before its might. Thanos nodded, not disappointed but accepting. Then we are enemies. A pity. You would have been useful. He turned back to the pedestal and claimed the third holocron, the crystalline artifact vanishing into his armor's storage. 3 down. 3 remain. Your Emperor has 2 of them, does he not? In his palace on Coruscant. The final one. He paused. The final one is hidden somewhere even your Empire hasn't found. Interesting. He walked toward the chamber exit, passing Vader without concern. I will give you this, Anakin Skywalker. You are the first being in this galaxy to wound me. The first to prove that the Force, when wielded with sufficient power, can affect even me. That makes you dangerous. But danger and threat are different things. You are dangerous, but I am inevitable. Vader tried to rise, to pursue, but his systems were too damaged. He could only watch as Thanos departed, ascending from the temple depths. Moments later, through the entrance far above, Vader saw the flash of engines as Sanctuary 2 broke orbit. The blockade opened fire. But Thanos' ship tore through the Imperial fleet like parchment, leaving crippled Star Destroyers in its wake. Vader knelt in the ruins of the temple, surrounded by shattered holocrons, clutching his severed arm, and knew with terrible certainty that the Emperor had underestimated this threat. They all had. Thanos wasn't just powerful. He was absolutely convinced of his purpose, and that made him far more dangerous than any Force wielder Vader had ever encountered. He activated his comlink with his remaining hand. Prepare my shuttle, and send a priority transmission to the Emperor. Tell him we need a new strategy. This enemy cannot be fought through conventional means. As his troops arrived to extract him, Vader gazed up at the stars where Thanos had vanished. 3 holocrons claimed. 3 remained. And somewhere in the galaxy, the Mad Titan was already planning his next move. The Empire had fought Jedi. It had crushed rebellions. But it had never faced something like this. Something that viewed entire civilizations as problems to be solved through mathematics and genocide. And Vader feared, in the depths of his mechanized heart, that the Empire had no answer for a being who was truly inevitable. The Emperor's throne room had never felt so oppressive. Vader knelt before his master, his severed arm replaced with a temporary cybernetic. The encounter with Thanos still raw in his mind. Palpatine descended from his throne, his yellow eyes gleaming with an emotion Vader had never seen in them before, genuine concern. You failed, Palpatine said simply. Yes, my master. This Thanos is unlike any opponent we have faced. He exists outside the Force. Lightsabers cannot harm him. Direct Force attacks barely affect him. And his physical strength. Vader paused. He is beyond what any being should be capable of. Palpatine circled his apprentice slowly. 3 holocrons in his possession. The knowledge of Bane, Revan, and the ancient Jedi. But knowledge alone is not power. Not in the way he believes. These artifacts contain wisdom, philosophy, techniques. They cannot grant him dominion over life and death as your Infinity Stones supposedly could. He doesn't know that, my master. Or perhaps he does, and seeks them for different reasons. Indeed, Palpatine returned to his throne. I possess two of the remaining holocrons. One contains the teachings of Darth Plagueye's knowledge of manipulating midichlorians to influence life itself. The other holds secrets of the ancient Sith, the ability to drain entire worlds of their force energy. Combined with what he's already gathered, the Emperor's expression darkened. He could potentially learn to weaponize the force itself, even without the ability to wield it directly. Then we must stop him before he reaches Coruscant. Oh, he won't come to Coruscant, Palpatine said with disturbing certainty. Not yet. There is one more holocron, one that even I have only heard whispers of, the Mortis holocron. It was said to contain the knowledge of the Ones, the Father, the Son, the Daughter, beings of pure force who maintain the balance between light and dark. If such an artifact truly exists, and if Thanos discovers its location, where is it? Unknown, lost for millennia. But Thanos has proven resourceful. If he deciphers the information within the three holocrons he possesses, he may find what we could not. Palpatine leaned forward. We must change our approach. Military force is ineffective. Direct confrontation has failed. We need allies. Vader's vocabulary made a sound like bitter laughter. Allies? You wish to ally with the rebellion against this threat? I wish to survive, Palpatine hissed. And if survival requires temporary cooperation with lesser evils, then so be it. Contact Mon Mothma. Propose a ceasefire. Tell her that something worse than the Empire has arrived. Something that will kill half the galaxy without discrimination. Between Rebel and Imperial, while the Empire grappled with its failure, Thanos stood aboard Sanctuary 2 in deep meditation, not force meditation, but the focused contemplation he had perfected over centuries. The three holocrons floated before him, their stored knowledge flowing through his ship's advanced systems, being translated, analyzed, synthesized. Darth Bane's holocron spoke of the rule of two, of concentrating dark side power through master and apprentice, of patience across generations. Thanos dismissed most of it as institutional thinking, but one concept intrigued him: the idea of immortality through essence transfer, the ability to survive beyond physical death. Darth Revan's holocron contained something far more valuable, proof that the force could be balanced within a single being. That light and dark were not enemies, but complementary forces. Revan had walked both paths and transcended the limitations of each. This resonated with Thanos' own philosophy: balance, the middle path between extremes. The third holocron, the crystalline anomaly from Lothal, contained something unexpected. Not teachings or techniques, but a map, coordinates scattered across the galaxy, pointing to locations of force convergence. And at the center, a single set of coordinates that pulsed with significance: the Mortis realm. Ebony Maw floated into the chamber, his thin hands clasped. Master, our sensors have detected unusual activity throughout the galaxy. Imperial fleets are mobilizing, but not toward us. They are withdrawing, consolidating around Coruscant and key systems. And we're receiving communications from multiple sources: the Rebel Alliance, independent systems, even criminal syndicates, all warning us that the Empire is preparing something. Let them prepare, Thanos said without turning. I have found the location of the fourth holocron. Not on Coruscant, as I suspected, but in a place that exists between realms. A nexus of force energy where beings of pure power once dwelled. Mortis, how do we reach a place between realms, my lord? The holocrons have shown me. There is a portal hidden in the Crolithium system. It opens only during specific stellar alignments that occur. Thanos consulted the data. In 72 hours. We will wait, and we will prepare. On the Rebel flagship, Mon Mothma stood before a hologram of Darth Vader, her expression carefully neutral despite the revulsion she felt. Bail Organa stood beside her, equally disturbed by this unprecedented communication. You expect us to believe, Mon Mothma said carefully, that the Empire, the regime that destroyed Alderaan, that hunts us across the galaxy, now seeks our help against a greater threat. I expect nothing, Vader replied. I merely state facts. A being called Thanos has arrived in our galaxy. He has already demonstrated the ability to defeat me in single combat and destroy Imperial fleets. He seeks artifacts of great power, and he has stated his intention to kill half of all life in the galaxy to achieve what he calls balance. Half. Bail Organa's voice was barely a whisper. That's, that's trillions of beings. It's incomprehensible. Incomprehensible yet inevitable if he is not stopped. The Emperor proposes a temporary ceasefire, a combined effort to eliminate this threat. Once Thanos is defeated, we return to our previous arrangement. Mon Mothma exchanged glances with her advisors. General Dodonna spoke up. Why should we trust anything the Empire says? This could be a trap to draw out our fleet. Because, Vader said, and for once his mechanical voice carried something almost like sincerity, Thanos does not distinguish between Empire and Rebellion. To him, we are all simply numbers to be culled. Your freedom fighters and our stormtroopers will die in equal measure when he decides to achieve his balance, unless we stop him first. The transmission ended. Mon Mothma stood in silence, grappling with the impossible choice before her. Ally with the Empire against an unknown threat, or maintain their principles and face annihilation. We need more information, she finally said. Send scouts to confirm this Thanos' existence and capabilities. And prepare a message to ourselves. Tell them a ceasefire may be necessary. The galaxy faces something worse than tyranny. It faces extinction. In the depths of the Coruscant underworld, a different conversation was taking place. Maul, the former Sith Lord who had survived being cut in half through sheer hatred, sat in his hidden sanctuary surrounded by holocrons he had collected over decades of obsessive searching. His crimson skin gleamed in the red light of Sith artifacts, his mechanical legs clicking as he paced. He had felt Thanos' arrival like a distortion in the Force itself, a void, an absence, something that should not exist. And he had watched from the shadows as this purple giant collected holocrons, defeated Vader, and casually discussed genocide as philosophy. Maul smiled, his teeth sharp in the darkness. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. He is everything the Sith pretended to be but never achieved. Pure will, uncorrupted by the seductive lies of the dark side. He serves no master, follows no code. He is. Maul paused, searching for the word. Perfect. He had been watching, learning, studying Thanos' pattern. 3 holocrons claimed, 2 in the Emperor's possession on Coruscant, and 1 hidden in Mortis, accessible only through a portal that would open in 3 days. Maul knew of the portal. He had searched for it himself, seeking any advantage against his hated enemies. If Thanos achieves his goal, Maul murmured to himself, half the galaxy dies. The Emperor, Vader, the Jedi remnants, all of them, potentially erased in his random culling. Or, his eyes gleamed with possibility. Or I ensure I survive. And in the chaos that follows, I build my own empire from the ashes. He activated a hidden comm link. Prepare my ship. We're going to the Chrolithium system. And bring the weapons. All of them. We're going to war. 72 hours later, the Chrolithium system became the nexus of galactic conflict. Sanctuary 2 arrived first. Thanos standing on the bridge. As his sensors detected the portal's activation. Point, a shimmer in space. Near the system's dying star. But he was not alone. Imperial Star Destroyers dropped from hyperspace by the dozen, forming a wall of firepower. Rebel frigates and corvettes emerged from different vectors, their smaller size allowing for greater maneuverability. And from the shadows, Maul's modified freighter appeared, bristling with scavenged weapons. Thanos studied the assembled forces with the calm of someone who had expected exactly this. They've united against me. Good. Let them witness what unity avails them. Master, Ebony Maw's voice carried urgency. The combined fleet numbers over 50 capital ships, hundreds of fighters, and ground forces preparing to deploy. Even Sanctuary 2 cannot withstand such concentrated firepower for long. Then we won't give them long. Thanos turned to his remaining children. Proxima Midnight, Corvus Glaive, Cull Obsidian. His Black Order, loyal unto death. Deploy. Engage their forces. Cause chaos. I will take a single craft to the portal and retrieve the final holocron. Once I possess all 6, this galaxy will learn the meaning of inevitable. The battle erupted across 3-dimensional space like a storm given form. Turbo lasers painted the void in green and red. Proton torpedoes spiraled between capital ships. TIE fighters and X-Wings danced their deadly ballet. The Black Order's assault craft tore into the combined fleet with devastating precision. Ebony Maw's telekinetic powers ripping fighters apart. Proxima Midnight's spear puncturing corvette hulls. Cull Obsidian's raw strength tearing through boarding parties. But it wasn't enough. For every Imperial ship damaged, 2 more took its place. Rebel pilots, fighting alongside their Imperial counterparts for the first time in history. Coordinated strikes that overwhelmed Sanctuary 2's defenses. The massive warship shuddered under concentrated fire. Shields failing, hull breaching. Thanos paid it no mind. He was already gone, piloting a small stealth craft toward the portal. Behind him, his ship burned. His children fought and died. Corvus Glaive torn apart by turbolaser fire. Cull Obsidian vented into space when his boarding craft was destroyed. Proxima Midnight and Ebony Maw fought on. But they were outnumbered 1,000 to 1. The portal opened before him. A shimmer of impossible geometry that made normal space look flat by comparison. Thanos guided his craft through, in reality inverted. Mortis, the realm between realms. A place where the Force itself took physical form. Where abstract concepts became tangible. The landscape was impossible, floating platforms, inverted waterfalls. Architecture that existed in more dimensions than 3. And at the center, a temple that was simultaneously ancient and eternal. Thanos landed his craft and approached on foot. The air here felt different, charged with energy that even his non-force-sensitive physiology could detect. He had studied the lore carefully. The Father, the Son, the Daughter, 3 beings who had embodied the Force's balance. Its dark side and its light. All dead now, their realm abandoned. But their knowledge remained. The temple doors opened at his approach, as if they had been waiting. Inside, floating above a pedestal of crystallized Force energy, was the Mortis holocron. Unlike the others, this one didn't glow with any particular color. It seemed to contain all colors and none, shifting between states as if it couldn't decide what it was. You have come far, Thanos of Titan. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Thanos turned to see 3 figures materializing, not truly present, but echoes, ghosts. The Father, stern and ancient. The Son, wrapped in dark malevolence. The Daughter, radiant with compassionate light. We have watched your journey with interest, the Father said. You seek balance, as we once did. But your method, your philosophy, is efficient, Thanos interrupted. You tried to maintain balance through eternal vigilance, through constant management of light and dark. I offer a simpler solution. Reduce the population until resources are abundant. Create a galaxy where suffering is minimized through mathematics. The Sun laughed, a sound like grinding stone. You think yourself different from me? I sought to break free of balance, to let the dark side dominate. You seek to impose your will on reality itself. We are the same, Titan. No, Thanos said firmly. You sought power for its own sake. I seek to correct a fundamental imbalance in the universe. There is no malice in what I do. No passion, only necessity. The Daughter stepped forward, her form shimmering with light. And if we told you there was another way? That the Force itself contains mechanisms for balance? That culling populations is not just unnecessary but fundamentally misunderstands the nature of life? Thanos met her gaze. I would say you are wrong. I have watched civilizations collapse under the weight of overpopulation. I have seen worlds die because their inhabitants lacked the courage to make hard choices. Your balance is theoretical. Mine is proven. Then take the holocron, the Father said sadly. It contains our knowledge, our power, the secrets of life and death that you seek. But know this, Thanos, the Force is not a tool to be wielded. It is a living thing, and it will resist what you intend. Everything resists, Thanos replied. Resistance is irrelevant to inevitability. He reached out and claimed the Mortis holocron. The moment his fingers touched it, the realm shuddered. The 3 figures flickered and faded. And Thanos felt something flow into him. Not power, precisely, but understanding. The knowledge of how the Force worked at its most fundamental level. How midichlorians connected beings to this energy field. How that field could be manipulated not through sensitivity to it, but through understanding of its mechanisms. He had what he needed. For holocrons now, with information on how to find the remaining 2 in the Emperor's possession. But as he turned to leave, the portal behind him collapsed. The stellar alignment had passed. He was trapped in Mortis. No, not trapped. Thanos studied the realm's geometry with his enhanced intellect, analyzing the impossible architecture, the dimensional folding. He didn't need the portal. With the knowledge from the Mortis holocron, he could create his own exit. It would take time, hours, perhaps a day, but he would emerge. And when he did, he would go to Coruscant. The Emperor had kindly consolidated everything Thanos needed in one location. 2 holocrons, the seat of galactic power, and trillions of beings concentrated in one massive ecumenopolis. Coruscant would be where the Mad Titan made his final stand, where he proved that his philosophy was not madness but mercy. Outside Mortis, in normal space, the combined Imperial and Rebel fleets stared at the portal's collapse. Sanctuary 2 drifted as wreckage, its systems offline. The Black Order was defeated, Ebony Maw captured, Proxima Midnight slain. Vader's shuttle approached the portal's last coordinates. But there was nothing, just empty space and the fading energy signature of something that had briefly connected realities. Did we win? A rebel pilot asked over the comms. No, Vader replied, his voice heavy with certainty. We merely delayed him. Thanos is still alive, still determined. And now he has 4 holocrons. When he finds a way out of Mortis, he will come for the rest. He will come for Coruscant. Mon. Mothma's voice crackled through the fleet-wide channel. Then we prepare, Empire and Rebellion together. Because if Thanos emerges with the power he seeks, it won't matter who controls the galaxy. There won't be a galaxy left to control. On Coruscant, Emperor Palpatine stood at his throne room window, gazing out at the city world that stretched to every horizon. Quadrillions of beings living in ignorance of the threat approaching. He clutched the 2 remaining holocrons in his withered hands, Darth Plagueis' secrets and the ancient Sith power to drain worlds. Come then, Titan, Palpatine whispered. Come to Coruscant. I have ruled this galaxy for decades through manipulation and fear. I have mastered the dark side in ways you cannot comprehend. You may be physically superior. You may exist outside the Force. But this is my domain. And here, I am still the supreme power. He activated a hidden comm system. Commander, initiate Protocol Omega. Mobilize every fleet. Recall every Star Destroyer. I want Coruscant turned into a fortress. And activate the Death Star. Yes, I know it's not complete. Make it operational anyway. If Thanos wants a war, he shall have one unlike any this galaxy has ever seen. In the Mortis realm, Thanos worked tirelessly, using the knowledge from the holocrons to fold space, to create a tear back to normal reality. The process was complex, requiring precise manipulation of energies he had only just learned existed. But he was Thanos. He had sought the Infinity Stones across his entire universe. He had defeated the Avengers, conquered Xander, claimed the Power Stone from Ronan the Accuser. This was just another obstacle, and obstacles were meant to be overcome. As he worked, he considered what would come next. Coruscant, the final 2 holocrons, and then the decision, how to use the knowledge he had gathered. The holocrons contained techniques for manipulating life on a galactic scale, for draining Force energy, for transferring consciousness, for altering reality itself through this pervasive field that connected all beings. Combined with his own intellect and will, these techniques would give him what he needed. Not the snap of the Infinity Gauntlet, but something equivalent. A way to achieve his sacred mission in this new galaxy. Half would die, random, dispassionate, fair, and the survivors would inherit a galaxy of abundance, where resources were plentiful, where suffering was minimized, where every being could thrive without the crushing weight of overpopulation. It was mercy, even if they screamed otherwise. The portal began to form, a wound in Mortis's reality that opened back to normal space. Thanos stepped through, emerging in the Coruscant system. Before him, arrayed in the most massive defensive formation he had ever witnessed, was the combined might of the Galactic Empire and the Rebel Alliance. Thousands of capital ships, tens of thousands of fighters, the incomplete Death Star, its super laser array glowing with barely contained power. And on Coruscant's surface, he could sense them. The final 2 holocrons, the last pieces of his plan. The Emperor waiting like a spider in his web, believing his mastery of the Force made him invincible. Thanos smiled. They had all made the same mistake. They believed their power, technological, political, mystical, made them safe. They believed he could be stopped through superior numbers or superior strategy. They didn't understand that he was inevitable. This is your final chance. Thanos broadcast across all frequencies. Surrender the holocrons. Accept that half must die for the greater good. Or fight, and watch as I take what I need by force. Choose. The response came from Palpatine himself, the Emperor's voice dripping with dark promise. Come and claim them, alien. Come to Coruscant, and learn that in this galaxy, some powers cannot be overcome through brute strength alone. The dark side of the Force is a pathway to abilities some consider unnatural. You will die on the steps of my throne. This I promise. Thanos' smile widened. Then let us see which philosophy prevails. Your force, or my inevitability. He gunned his small craft's engines and dove toward the planet, toward the greatest battle this galaxy had ever witnessed, toward the final confrontation that would determine the fate of trillions. The culling of Coruscant had begun. The battle for Coruscant raged for 3 days and nights, a conflict that would be remembered by those who survived as the moment the galaxy united against extinction itself. Thanos descended through the planetary shields, like a meteor wrapped in determination, his small craft weaving through turbolaser, fire that turned the sky into a lattice of death. Fighter wings from both Empire and Rebellion pursued him, their ideological divide forgotten in the face of a threat that recognized no politics, no allegiances, only mathematics. He crashed directly into the Imperial Palace, the impact creating a crater that swallowed an entire city block. He emerged from the wreckage unscathed. What followed was carnage given purpose. Thanos fought through legions of stormtroopers, through squads of rebel commandos, who had infiltrated the palace to assist in the defense, through inquisitors and force-sensitive warriors pulled from every corner of the galaxy. His path to the throne room was paved with bodies and broken weapons, a testament to the futility of conventional warfare against a being who existed beyond the rules. Vader met him at the throne room entrance, his rebuilt arm igniting a lightsaber in each hand, fighting with a desperate fury he had not felt since Mustafar. Beside him stood unexpected allies, Ahsoka Tano, his former Padawan, emerged from hiding, Kanan Jarrus and Ezra Bridger, Jedi survivors who had never met but now fought as one. Even Maul appeared, his hatred for Palpatine momentarily eclipsed by the need to survive. The Force itself seemed to scream as they attacked in concert. Lightsabers carved patterns of light and dark. Telekinetic waves crashed against Thanos like ocean breakers. Maul's fury-driven strikes, Ahsoka's graceful Shurin, Vader's overwhelming power, all focused on a single target. Thanos fought them all, and he was winning. But something changed. As the battle reached its crescendo, as Thanos' hands closed around the 2 final holocrons that Palpatine had unleashed from their vault, the Mad Titan paused. The 6 artifacts floated before him, resonating with each other, their combined knowledge flooding through his consciousness. And in that moment, he saw what the Mortis beings had tried to tell him. The Force was not power to be wielded. It was life itself, in all its chaotic, inefficient, beautiful complexity. The holocrons didn't contain weapons or techniques for mass culling. They contained wisdom, the understanding that balance couldn't be imposed through mathematics, that suffering and growth were inseparable, that every being who lived and died added something irreplaceable to the tapestry of existence. Thanos had sought to become a gardener, pruning half the galaxy so the rest might flourish. But the Force showed him gardens needed more than pruning. They needed wild growth, unexpected mutations, the chaos of natural selection. His method wasn't mercy. It was sterility disguised as salvation. For the first time in decades, Thanos felt uncertainty. Emperor Palpatine, sensing that moment of hesitation, struck. His Force lightning erupted with the power of concentrated hatred, augmented by the dark side energies of Coruscant itself. The purple arcs didn't just electrocute, they corrupted, aged, withered everything they touched. Thanos screamed, feeling his Titan physiology struggle against power that attacked not his body but his very essence. You presume to threaten my empire? Palpatine's voice was pure venom. You, who understand nothing of true power. I have transcended death itself. I am the dark side made manifest. And you are nothing but an alien fool who confused strength with inevitability. The combined Jedi and Sith attackers pressed their advantage. Vader's lightsaber finally found purchase, carving through Thanos' damaged armor to draw blood. Ahsoka's blade struck from behind. The Mad Titan, for the first time since arriving in this galaxy, fell to one knee. But even in defeat, Thanos was dangerous. With the last of his strength, he activated a device he had prepared, a dimensional rift generator, designed to tear open the barrier between universes. If he couldn't achieve balance here, he would escape, regroup, try again in another reality. The portal began to form. The same shimmer that had brought him to this galaxy now offering escape. Thanos reached for it, the 6 holocrons still clutched against his chest. No. Vader's voice cut through the chaos. You will not flee. You will face justice for what you have done. But it wasn't Vader who stopped him. It was Ezra Bridger, the youngest Force user present, who saw what the others could not. The portal wasn't just an escape route. It was unstable, threatening to collapse into a singularity that would consume Coruscant itself. In desperation, Ezra did what Jedi do best. He sacrificed himself. He leaped into the portal, using the Force to stabilize it from the inside, to redirect its destination, not to Thanos' home universe, but to the unknown regions, to the depths of uncharted space where even the Mad Titan's ship couldn't return from. Thanos' eyes met Ezra's for one brief moment. The boy was smiling, understanding, making the hard choice not through cold calculation, but through compassion, showing Thanos that sacrifice meant something different than what the Mad Titan had believed. The portal collapsed, taking both Ezra and Thanos with it, vanishing into the space between spaces. The throne room fell silent. The 6 holocrons clattered to the floor, their mission unfulfilled. Palpatine, Vader, Ahsoka, Maul, beings who had been enemies moments before, all stood in exhausted unity, staring at the space where the portal had been. Is he dead? Ahsoka finally asked. Unknown, Vader replied. But he is gone, and that may have to be enough. In the aftermath, the uneasy alliance dissolved as quickly as it had formed. The Empire returned to its tyranny. The rebellion resumed its fight for freedom. But both sides knew they had glimpsed something terrifying, a threat from beyond their reality, that had nearly succeeded in culling half the galaxy through sheer force of will, somewhere in the unknown regions, on a frozen moon orbiting a dead star. Thanos pulled himself from the wreckage of his escape pod. He had survived, but he had nothing. No ship, no army, no holocrons, and no way home. He looked up at the unfamiliar stars and, for the first time in his long existence, wondered if his mission had been wrong, if the boy who smiled while sacrificing himself understood something about balance that Thanos, for all his power and conviction, had missed. The Mad Titan sat in the snow and considered the possibility that inevitability was not the same as righteousness, that perhaps the universe, any universe, required not culling but the courage to let life determine its own course, however chaotic and painful that might be. And on Coruscant, as the city world rebuilt and the political machines resumed their eternal grinding, Vader stood at a window in the Imperial Palace. He thought of Thanos, of his absolute certainty, his willingness to become a monster for what he believed was mercy. He thought of Ezra Bridger, giving his life to save trillions he would never meet. 2 philosophies, 2 sacrifices, 2 different versions of doing what was necessary. Vader didn't know which one was right, but he knew which one the Force had chosen to preserve, and perhaps that was answer enough. The galaxy had survived its brush with extinction, but it had changed. For in facing a threat that transcended light and dark, empire and rebellion, the people of this galaxy far, far away had learned something fundamental. That survival sometimes required impossible alliances, unthinkable sacrifices, and the willingness to recognize that the greatest threats came not from within, but from those who believed, absolutely, in the righteousness of their terrible mathematics. Thanos had been inevitable, but the galaxy had been more stubborn than inevitability itself.